now I'm going to be joined by another speaker from Warsaw, actually. Witold Wiliński is the CEO of the Warsaw Stock Exchange Tech company. Witold, can you hear us? I think you're on mute.
Yes, it's okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, but barely. Can you say something just for us to double check that the connection is good?
Yes. Hello, Andrew, again. Can you hear me or not?
Okay, perfect. So I would like to take a broader look at Central and Eastern Europe. In the first part, we were talking about the startup ecosystem. Now we're going to look a bit on the macroeconomic side of things. So, the last 2 years have been quite challenging for everyone, also for countries like Poland, like the rest of Central and Eastern Europe. And I would like to ask you, what kind of trends have developed since the beginning of the pandemic, and what the macroeconomic situation in the region is going to be like going forward, or is now?
Sorry, I cannot hear you. Could you? I have to switch to another. 1 second.
Hello, 1, 2, 3.
Yes, could you repeat the question, please?
Okay, sure. So I was saying that the last 2 years have been quite challenging for pretty much everybody, and I would like you to give us a broader view on the macroeconomic situation and what how the region has been developing and how it has been growing over the last 2 years, and what are we facing right now?
So I think that everybody knows that the macroeconomic situation is not very good in the European Union now. When we are analyzing the GDP growth during 2020, we know that it was negative. It was in average 6.5% minus. And of course, we have a kind of better growth in 2021, but we don't know what will be the situation in 2022. I think that one of the biggest problem is the level of governmental debt, and I think that this level is very high now in Greece, in Italy, in Portugal. And comparing the situation that we had during the previous crisis in 2008, 2009, I think that the situation is worse. Because everybody knows that the inflation is approaching now. We know what is the policy of European Central Bank with interest rates close to zero. And we know that the European Central Bank have to fight with the inflation, which means that we have to wait to some next steps. And we know that the interest rates will be higher than now. And of course, the consequence of the situation will be that the governmental debt, which is high in Southern Europe, as I told, the cost of this governmental debt will be huge for governmental budgets.
Do you think the situation in Central and Eastern Europe is slightly better than the rest of the European Union or the rest of Europe?
Yes, in my opinion, yes, because the governmental debt in average is lower than 60% in Central European countries. I mean, in Poland, in Hungary, in Bulgaria, in Romania, and from this point of view, the situation is better. And of course, another aspect which is quite important, this is the level of the social security that we have in the region is completely different than in Western Europe. And I think that this is, of course, the consequence of the communist system, but it is something good because we as a government, we are spending less money on social security, and that is why our debts, governmental debts, are lower. Which means that we can spend more money on the infrastructure, on the technology, on the education, and all these aspects are a kind of triggers for the GDP development in the future.
When I started this session, I was saying that the challenge that Central and Eastern Europe has is that we rely on labor-intensive sectors. And I gave an example of Czechia, or the Czech Republic, where the manufacturing sector plays an important role, 10% of the GDP, and also 20% of export. And now with the semiconductor shortage situation, the Czech Republic is going, or Skoda, the main manufacturer in Czechia, will produce 250,000 cars less than they did before. So what do you think? Of course, the answer here is to look at innovation and technology, but how do you see that from your perspective?
I think the manufacturing sector in Central and Eastern Europe is quite important, but of course this is not the future. I can give you the example of the Polish economy. In Poland, in terms of export, we are an exporter to Germany that the export level is higher than the French export, which means that in terms of manufacturing, the region is very strong, but the future, in my opinion, this is the technology, this is the fintech sector. And what we can observe that in terms of technical education, we are very strong. I mean, we are stronger than France, than Italy. And this is one of the very important aspects of our future development. And this is not only the case of Poland, this is the case of Baltic states or, for example, Romania.
And we're talking about innovation, but also this particular event is focused on sustainable growth. How do you see the sustainable growth going forward in Central and Eastern
Europe? This is a complex. This is a very complex agenda for our region. And we have a kind of heritage of the communism period, and this is related to the fact that our economy and our electricity production is based on coal, and this is a kind of big problem because for the sustainable growth, we need green energy. And of course, we can produce wind energy, we can produce solar energy, but based only on these two segments, we are not able to cover the whole demand that we have for the electricity in the country. So we have a lot of discussion on this topic in Poland, and I think that we will follow the same way that France, for example, where the supply of nuclear power energy is around 70% of the whole demand in the country.
And I know that the Warsaw Stock Exchange Group is a huge driver of ESG, which is environmental, social governance, for example. How do you see that being developed in the mindsets of entrepreneurs? Do you see the public sector driving that in the region, or on the contrary, rather the private sector understanding that this is sort of the future of growth?
I think that it starts to be an important topic. We are promoting the ESG as a Warsaw Stock Exchange, but I think that we are at the beginning of the trip here in this area. Of course, we've implemented the ESG policy in Warsaw Stock Exchange, and we are suggesting to do it to all enterprises that are listed in Warsaw.
And what does that mean for investors? How do you see investors looking at the importance of ESG when it comes to startups, for example?
In my opinion, it starts to be important from the point of view of institutional investors from foreign countries. I think that institutional investors from Poland are not involved in a very huge scale in the ESG. But I think in the same time that ESG starts to be important for young individual investors. And in Poland, in Warsaw, the percentage of individual investors is relatively high. And I think that for the young generation, I mean, people that have 20 or 30 years, it starts to be very important.
I have to admit that I was quite surprised when I went to Israel about a month or 6 weeks ago, and it seemed really interesting to see that the whole startup ecosystem in Israel developed so much. At the same time, the understanding of ESG, of sustainability, is not really that developed. So you have this huge gap between the developed startup ecosystem and also the understanding of ESG. Do you think that this is really that important for the future growth of entrepreneurship, sustainable entrepreneurship in our region?
I think that there's a huge. We have a huge gap, and there is a lot of things that we have to do in this area.
And so just a quick question to sort of summarize. You were talking about at the beginning. You were talking about the differences between the EU and also Central and Eastern Europe. And I wanted to ask you about protectionism in both the EU and the region. How do you see that being developed going forward?
Yes, this is a relatively new topic in the European Union, but this is a consequence of huge flow and growing importance of FDIs. I mean, foreign direct investment made by a state-controlled enterprise from China. And I think that in this area, Europe is trying to adopt the same legal acts that have been adopted in the United States in 2007. Europe started that give a possibility to stop investment made by state-controlled enterprises in 2019. And we've adopted the same law in Poland, in Hungary, in France, and in Germany. I think that this is a kind of consequence of the situation that we had in Europe in 2008 and 2009 during the previous crisis, when, for example, Volvo and Land Rover. Sorry, can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yes.
Yes, this was the moment when Volvo and Land Rover start to be a Chinese and Indian company. In 2018, there was a big discussion in Germany concerning the producer of robots, KUKA, that was acquired by a Chinese company. So I think that Europe is starting to think about its own technology, about the security, and the protectionism is a kind of answer to the growing role of state-controlled enterprise from China, from Russia, and from other countries.
But do you think that this will affect the development of Central and Eastern Europe?
I think that no, because in terms of technology, we are not so strong that Western European countries. So there will be no any influence or high influence of this new protectionism.
You are the CEO of the Warsaw Stock Exchange Tech. So I would like to ask you why tech is so important for the Warsaw Stock Exchange Group. That's a group of companies.
So this is the same situation as in the New York Stock Exchange, London Stock Exchange, or Deutsche Börse. All exchanges are trying to diversify their incomes. And as you know, a stock exchange nowadays is a technological company. So that is why all these companies are trying to create their own technological branches and are trying to sell the technology to other partners.
But I think that the Warsaw Stock Exchange has gone a little bit further than that, and then the results are already visible. It seems that there's more gaming companies, for example, listed in Warsaw than in Tokyo. When the first, up until recently, Tokyo was actually number one when it comes to that particular sector. And we were talking about the development of gaming being one of the key verticals that have the potential to develop in Central and Eastern Europe, in countries like Poland.
Yes, of course. The Warsaw Stock Exchange now is the main market for game producers. It's true, but this is related to the fact that, as I told you, in terms of IT education, we are very strong. And this is a sector very well developed in Poland and quite attractive for companies from not only the Central European region, but from the whole world.
But the Warsaw Stock Exchange has also developed a wide range of products that can help other stock exchanges go into that technical or technological area.
Yes, we have. We are working now on the new trading system, and this new trading system will replace the system that we have now. And of course, we will sell the system not to Western European stock exchanges, but we are more concentrated on the Central European region, on the Middle East, and on Asia, in terms of the new trading system.
So I think this will be my final question about regional cooperation, because we were saying earlier that it seems that our countries are often, they often target Western Europe or the US, as opposed to actually utilizing the potential that is here in Central and Eastern Europe. But it seems that the countries of Central and Eastern Europe could actually cooperate more with each other, as opposed to trying to look only west. Do you agree with that statement?
We are talking about the cooperation of countries, of Central European countries, yes, in terms of technology development.
But also, I'm talking about any kind of cooperation between the countries, and that can be the private or the public sector. Our emerging Europe is currently running an interest or developing a piece of research which is focused on digital health solutions, and we can see that there could have been more work done and more solutions developed if countries of Central and Eastern Europe actually help each other develop those solutions. tend to go to other bigger markets, but when it comes to clinical trials, for example, they don't even look within their region, and this is something that has been quite visible recently since the pandemic started.
So I think that here we have two aspects. The first one, this is the cooperation of governments in terms of the development of the infrastructure. And I'm talking about the infrastructure that can connect the region, the southern part with the northern part of the region. Similar projects have been done in European Union, in all the EU member states a few years ago. So we have to start this cooperation, and we have to build a good infrastructure which will be a good kind of connector between our countries. And this is from the governmental point of view. But from the point of view of private firms, I think that one of the good examples of the technological development in the region, this is the growing importance of Asseco Poland, a Polish IT company, which have developed with a very good and big success the activity in Central Europe, in Czech Republic, in Slovakia, and in South and Eastern Europe. This is a very good example of cooperation and the creation of good value added in the region in terms of technology.
I very much hope that the 3Cs initiative will also contribute to a further cooperation between the countries. Witold, thank you very much for joining us this morning. And for all the insight. Hopefully see you in Warsaw, or maybe again in London, but perhaps in person, not online. Thank you very much.
Andrew, thank you very much for the invitation, and goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you.